been doing nothing but drinking and thinking, oh, since you've been away.
DJ Payne 1.
Oh!
Whoa, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the CEO Sports Show for August 5th, 2025. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Cowboys and everything that's going on with that team, with the Micah Parsons extension stuff and everything going on with just what's going on with them this season. I brought on RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. That'll be later in the episode. We're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions and my opinion on their football team for this upcoming season and why I don't believe they're actually a Super Bowl contender. And we're also going to be talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo and what Shams Charania was saying yesterday on First Take about a potential trade situation for Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I just want to say this. Thank you guys for the support. I appreciate all you guys coming out to the stream yesterday and supporting the page so far. It's been a long time coming when it comes to this channel, but everything I felt went pretty good yesterday. Obviously there's some places that we need to improve, but that's fine. It's our first episode and we look forward to giving you guys the best product we could possibly give you guys. So let's start off. Oh yeah, by the way, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that as well. But I want to start off in Detroit and talk about the Lions going into this season. I don't believe that the Detroit Lions are Super Bowl contenders. And the reason why I don't believe the Lions are Super Bowl contenders is because Jared Goff is their quarterback. And the reason why I don't believe in Jared Goff is because we have seen it for years now. Jared Goff has had teams that could have won the Super Bowl. He has had talented football teams. And the fact that they lost in the divisional round this year, to me, really, all my belief for Jared Goff really went out the window. They had everything going for them. They had home field advantage. They were coming off a bye. They had an elite offensive line. They had an elite run game. They had really good receivers. They had an elite play caller. Granted, yes, Ben Johnson didn't call his best game in that game. But then again, it's the Washington Commanders. It's not like their defense is the Orange Crush. They weren't some amazing defense. And we saw that the following week with the Eagles, and we saw how they dealt with their defense, with that defense. So I don't believe in Jared Goff. I don't think that he is the guy that's going to get the Detroit Lions over the top. And what's really funny to me when it comes to Jared Goff is he gets all this top 10 talk from, people in the media and even the executives around the league. But are we not going to bring up the fact that Sean McVay moved on from Jared Goff, and the following season, they won a Super Bowl. You could make a case that Jared Goff is what was holding the Los Angeles Rams back, and they probably could have won more Super Bowls if they had a better quarterback. Because Jared Goff, to me, is a guy that when everything's going right, when the plays are being ran the right way, when the receivers are getting open, everything's blocked up, Jared Goff will shred a defense. He is accurate. He does process the game well from a clean pocket. He does all of those things the right way. But when a play breaks down and he has to make a play out of structure, he can't do it. When the offensive line isn't holding up in protection, he's not going to be able to make plays for you because he is not good under pressure. These are the things that you look at when it comes to top flight quarterbacks, and you say, okay, when you get into these playoff games, everything isn't going to be perfect for you. You're not going to be able to run the ball perfectly every single game. You're not going to be able to get perfect protection all game. So when you look at quarterbacks that can, I think, get over the top, they have to be able to make plays when the play breaks down, and that is not Jared Goff's forte. Now, could he win in a situation that like the Philadelphia Eagles had last year? Sure. Yeah, I think he could. But at the end of the day, do you understand how difficult it is for a front office to build a team the magnitude that we saw from the Eagles last year? That was a all-time great team because of the fact that they spent years and years and years and years building that team and doing so many right things to make that roster better that ultimately they were able to build a team as well as they built that team. It's just very hard to replicate something like that. Now, I do think that the Detroit Lions have done a very good job building out that roster, but I just think that if they want to win a Super Bowl, they have to find a better quarterback, and they have to find a quarterback that can actually make things happen when things break down and everything isn't perfect for them. Because when you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC, even if they were to win the NFC, you look at the teams over in the AFC, you have the Ravens, you have the Bills, you have the Chiefs, and those teams all have quarterbacks that when things break down and, their offensive line isn't perfect and things aren't perfect around them, they can make things happen. And that's why I just don't believe that the Lions with Jared Goff are a team that could win a Super Bowl, because I just don't believe in Jared Goff, the quarterback. And it's funny, I say this a lot. Jared Goff is who people think Dak Prescott is, because people think that Dak Prescott has had these loaded rosters with these great play callers like Kellen Moore, even though he's not a great play caller. Jared Goff has had great play callers. He's had two of the best play callers of the past decade. So I just don't understand where people are coming from when they put him in these top 10 lists. Executives, the first thing I saw when they had Jared Goff ranked at 8, I said, yeah, there's a reason why there are a lot of executives that lose their job every single year, because they believe this guy is one of the 10 best quarterbacks in football. And ultimately, the moral of the story is, if you have a quarterback that is so heavily reliant on the offense being heavily scripted, then I just don't think that that is the type of quarterback that's going to win you a Super Bowl, unless you have a really, really, really good roster around them, like we saw from the Philadelphia Eagles this past season. So we're off the Detroit Lions. I did enough criticizing that football team. So I do want to move on to the NBA. This is going to be our first NBA topic of the CEO Sports Show, which I absolutely look forward to talking about more NBA on this show. Yesterday on First Take, Shams Charania went on and he talked about that the situation in Milwaukee with Giannis Antetokounmpo, his future is still undecided with that basketball team, which I think is absolutely crazy to me. The fact that the Milwaukee Bucks waived and stretched Damian Lillard to bring in Miles Turner, that to me, if they didn't know that Giannis Antetokounmpo was going to be with that team for the long run and they did those moves, that is absolute mismanagement on their part. That is, to me, negligence. But that's besides the point. If Giannis Antetokounmpo wants to win an NBA championship, he needs to get out of Milwaukee. He needs to request a trade from Milwaukee. Now, do I think with the roster that the Bucks have, I think they have a mediocre roster outside of Giannis Antetokounmpo, but because of how great of a player he is, can he elevate that team to potentially make a run in a weak Eastern Conference? Maybe, but I would still take New York over them. I would take Cleveland over them. I would take Orlando over them. I would take a healthy Philadelphia over them. And that to me is just in the Eastern Conference. When you go to the Western Conference, now you're talking about Oklahoma City, Houston, Golden State, Minnesota, the Lakers. I just think that there are too many teams in the NBA that I just think would be able to handle the Milwaukee Bucks with the roster that they have. That makes me say, okay, if Giannis wants to win an NBA championship, not just make a run in the Eastern Conference, he needs to request a trade and get out of Milwaukee. And I understand why he wants to stay in Milwaukee, the whole loyalty stuff. It's all great. I understand that. But he is just not going to win a championship with that franchise. And if Giannis Antetokounmpo moved on from the Milwaukee Bucks, would anybody look at him any differently? Because everybody knows that this roster isn't good enough for him to win a championship. And he won a championship in Milwaukee. And it's not like the team that he had around him when he won that championship was like what we saw from the Boston Celtics last year, where they had an insanely good roster. It was a really good roster that they had, but Giannis Antetokounmpo and the impact that he has on the game and how great of a player he is was able to elevate that Milwaukee Bucks team to a championship. And that was the first championship that they won since they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, that's how long it's been since that franchise has won a championship. So I wouldn't look at Giannis any differently if he requested a trade, because I think he really wrote it out with this franchise. And I think ultimately what really, did this franchise in the Milwaukee Bucks is the fact that they missed on that Damian Lillard trade. And I do give them credit for trying that, because at the end of the day, you can't push teams to make moves that get them over the top or that could potentially get them over the top. And then if it doesn't work out, criticize them, because Damian Lillard, when they traded for him, was maybe the best point guard in the NBA. And I think that the fit between him and Giannis, I thought that it was a pretty good fit. So I give the Bucks credit for actually trying to get something done there, because again, you can't get on a franchise and tell them, hey, push the envelope and put all your chips in the middle of the table. And then when it doesn't work out, criticize them for it. So I absolutely do give them credit for it. It's just unfortunate that it didn't work out for them, because ultimately that is the thing that I think is going to do this franchise in. But like, when you look at the Eastern Conference, I know the Bucks roster is painfully mediocre. But again, I do actually like the fit with Miles Turner and Giannis, a guy that can hit shots from the perimeter. And I just think that ultimately, when it comes to this Bucks team, I just don't see how they're better than they were last year. I think the only reason why I would expect them to go further this year than they did last year is just because of the quality of the conference in the Eastern Conference, because no Boston. I don't think Boston is going to be a team that really contends for anything next year, just because, this upcoming season, just because Tatum's not going to be around. Indiana, they lost Miles Turner to the Milwaukee Bucks, ironically, and no Tyrese Halliburton. I think that they're going to really struggle to even make the playoffs next year. So 2 of the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference from last year aren't going to be in the picture. And the Milwaukee Bucks were one of the top 5 teams. So, to me, I think they could contend in the Eastern Conference, but I just don't think, even if they somehow get out of the Eastern Conference, that they have any chance of winning, an NBA championship, because Jason Timp actually did a great job describing this. You can get to the NBA Finals and win a game or 2 and still not be close to winning a championship. And I just think he did a great job explaining that. And that's the way I feel about the Milwaukee Bucks, that even if they were to get to the finals, maybe they can win a game or 2, which, by the way, I wouldn't predict them to go to the finals. But maybe they win a game or 2, but they're still not close to contending. And if Giannis wants to win an NBA championship, he needs to find a way out of that situation. So, first basketball topic out of the way on the CEO Sports Show. That felt great because I actually can't wait to cover the NBA. And, once things start getting going, there's going to be a lot more NBA coverage on the show. So yesterday, I recorded something with RJ Ochoa about the Dallas Cowboys. He is the editor-in-chief over there with Blogging the Boys. He covers the Dallas Cowboys. And I do want to play this for you guys. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to get this on the stream right now. Me on today's episode is the editor at Blogging the Boys, but more importantly, he is a friend of mine. He is RJ Ochoa. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, dude. It's great to be with you. It's great to be in August, and great to have football happening left and right about time.
So, fun fact, you are actually the first guest in Kretschman media history. So that is something you will always be able to put on your resume for all time.
Yeah, I mean, why stop at resume? I think tombstone is where I need to have this put for it to take full effect.
So I definitely appreciate that. But obviously, Jerry Jones is great at keeping this team in the headlines. And his story of the year is what I'm going to start to call it, is the whole Micah Parsons situation. Let me ask you this question. Do you believe Micah Parsons will be on the field for the Dallas Cowboys come September 4th in Philadelphia?
100%. I mean, I don't know how... I understand people's need to take the trade request seriously. I mean, Micah said it, like it stands to reason, but I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think like you and I probably saw it and we're like, okay, that's part of this whole thing that didn't need to be this way. And it's exhausting and it's taking up way too much oxygen, but we all know how this ends. And we've known how this ends for a very long time. We know this ends with Micah becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And now that the trade request has happened, you can file it away with CeeDee Lamb's pissed off tweet last year, or the Zeke Who stuff, or any other kind of moment in that realm that we've seen over the course of the last decade from this team.
Yeah, what do you think it is? Why do you think they carry out these contracts and wait till the last minute to sign these guys? I just don't understand it. I think that, not only from a football business perspective, it doesn't make sense, but just from a regular business perspective, it doesn't make any sense, because they're going to end up paying these guys, $5 to sometimes even $7 million on average per year. And once you multiply that by 4, you're talking about $20 million over the life of the contract that they cost themselves for waiting these guys out. I just don't understand it. Maybe they make that money back with all the, first take headlines that they get, but I don't understand. What do you think the case is there?
I think that we've all unfortunately have gone down this rabbit hole, but we've been dragged, like against our will, down this rabbit hole over time. And at first, I think you apply the logic of, well, like you just said, like you're going to ultimately cost yourself more because you're going to do this, and you hinder yourself. You're not able to sign other would-be free agents, right? And this was true for Micah last year. It was true for Dak. It was true for CeeDee. Like we could go on and on and on and on. And so I have come to the conclusion that it's one of two possibilities, maybe a merging of them. And for the record, I find them each to be preposterous, but we're this far down, like to where now we have to consider some illogical things because, we're here. And so one would be that they want the attention, and maybe it is for financial gain, to your point, or maybe it's just some sick, twisted game to them, right? Like it's fun, it's enjoyable, and they own it, so they can do what they want. But I did not used to put a lot of credence into that thought, but like 2 weeks ago, Adam Schefter suggested that, and on 105.3 The Fan, and for Adam Schefter, being who he is, understanding who he is, to openly suggest that they do this for PR purposes is quite startling to me. And so again, I have to consider that. And the other idea would be what a lot of people suggest is that they don't have the liquid cash. And I'm not going to pretend to be a savvy enough businessman to understand the inner workings of all that. And look, this is the most valuable professional sports franchise in the world. Granted, it's backed by a singular family, not some corporate firm. And so that kind of, passes the smell test a little bit. But it does sound stupid to say they don't have the actual dollars and cents to make it work. But again, because we keep going through this, it just, you have to consider some pretty illogical stuff. Yeah.
So this upcoming season, I actually think that the Cowboys are in a good situation to win 10 plus games this upcoming year. I think they improved their offensive line. I think that's going to be a lot better than it was last year. The receiver room has obviously taken a step forward. We'll see with the defense. I'm a little worried there, but I think it's going to be good enough to be able to get this team to 10 plus wins. What are your expectations for the Cowboys this upcoming season? Do you think that this is a playoff team?
I do. Some of that is you get 3 wild cards, right? I mean, it's you got to kind of try to not be a playoff team, kind of like the 2024 Cowboys, right? Like you almost have to willfully sabotage yourself, because even last year, and you did a great job chronicling this, but we would all agree, we don't have to relitigate this, but that they kind of sabotaged the team. They sabotaged the roster. They sabotaged Mike McCarthy. Again, not to go through the whole thing, and they still won 7 games, right? Like, and that was with Dak missing over half the season. So like you can try really, 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 really hard to be bad at this whole thing and still just like sleepwalk your way to 7 wins. And that's why, I've been saying for months now, originally the win total for them was 7.5, and that's bumped up a little bit to 8.5. It's still easy money. This is not a team, like, to be clear, I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, Kris, dude, go, put the bet right now, whatever. That's not my point. But my point is they will be in the mix. They will absolutely be, I'm not foolish enough to sit here and doubt the Eagles in our current moment. I think multiple things can be true, and that the Cowboys play very well against the Eagles, that Dak Prescott plays very well against the Eagles, but the Eagles play very well against everybody else. And so I know there hasn't been a repeat division champion in a very long time, but if anyone's going to do it, it might be these Eagles. And so that being said, even if that does happen, I think that Dallas is in a position to win somewhere around 10, 11 games, just kind of depending on the random, one possession game if it goes their way. And I think they'll be a playoff team. And ultimately, I think that their future there will depend on their draw. Something I've said a lot over the last few years is, we talk about like, oh, the 49ers are this like super mighty team. Yeah, that they beat the Cowboys twice in their 3 playoff losses. And we don't like give them a pass for that. We're just like, oh, the Cowboys lost in the playoffs. Like, yeah, well, they're losing to these like really, really good teams. And I don't mean this as a shot to the Eagles. And I know it's always fun to make those, but like they have yet to get, and I know this, the Daniel Jones Giants in the divisional round. Like they have yet to just get that layup. And maybe you could argue that the Jordan Love Packers were that game for them, and they just blew it and they just squandered their chance. But I think they'll be in the mix. I think they'll be a playoff team. If Philly does regress, I think that they'll be maybe challenging for the division. I'm not really too fearful of Washington. And then at that point, it's just, can you fight this 30-year-old shadow that's been hanging over everybody's head?
Yeah, I think this upcoming year, with the addition of George Pickens, I think that Dak Prescott is in for a huge year. Do you think that Dak Prescott has the opportunity to have the best season of his career this upcoming year?
I will say no, because I don't think he'll ever touch 2023 again. Like, and that's just like, it was that good. You know what I mean? And so, but like, if he comes close to that, right, if he falls just shy of 2023, it technically wouldn't be career best. But I think that he'll play very, very well. I like, your general over on Dak, obviously from a passing standpoint. Again, I don't mean to just keep saying, but I follow you and I know how great of a job you do covering this team. Like, that Dak doesn't get evaluated objectively. And that's not a woe is me or whatever. It's just stating the facts. And so, people sit here and fairly talk about Jalen Hurts finishing second in MVP voting in 2022, and they use that to prop him up, and they should. And in the same breath, they should use Dak finishing second in MVP voting in 2023, or Lamar last year. Pick whoever you want. But that doesn't happen. When it comes to loud conversations about Dak, it's just the meme of it all. It's the Cowboys of it all. And I bring all that up to say he's a very, very good quarterback. I don't care where you rank him. He's a top 10 guy. He flirts with top 5, when he's on his own level of supernova. He's more than capable of being a franchise quarterback to lead a team and to take over a game, to have 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in a singular game. And maybe we'll have that a couple of times. But I do believe that the Cowboys probably want to have some level of offensive balance. I don't know what that looks like at the moment with the state of the run game and our kind of general questions there. But I certainly believe that George Pickens is going to help him, even if it doesn't, lead to a career high in a technical and literal sense.
Yeah, because like my thing with the whole Dak Prescott top 10 thing is like, if we're going to use playoff performance, which like, when you look at him compared to some of the other quarterbacks that they say are like top of the league when it comes to like Herbert and Lamar Jackson, like I just don't think it's fair to hold him accountable for the playoff performances, but then look past that with Lamar and Justin Herbert. I don't think that Dak's, a Lamar type of quarterback, but he's definitely in that top 10. I don't care where people rank him in there, but he's definitely in the top 10. I got one more question I got to ask you. Do you have a second? Can I ask you this?
Yeah, I've got any time you want.
Awesome. Brian Schottenheimer, what do you think Brian Schottenheimer is going to do this first year as a coach?
Man, I think that we have to evaluate him two ways when this season's over, and it's how he fared as a head coach and how he fared as an offensive play caller. You and I have talked in the past. I maintain that Mike McCarthy gets zero credit, and not just for his Cowboys tenure, but his Packers tenure. And despite the fact that we've learned that Aaron Rodgers is not exactly the easiest person to work with, and we still are like, Mike sucks, like Mike did nothing with the Packers and whatever. And look, we all, like, objective people like you and I would like to think like you and I sit here and say Dak was second MVP voting in 2023. CD had the super special year in 2023. And we say that in the same breath as we say Mike McCarthy sucked. Dude, who was calling the offensive plays? And I know he had issues and they had the dust up in San Francisco and kind of figured things out, but like to give him zero credit is really unfair in my mind. And so I bring that up to say losing him is significant. I don't care what anybody wants to say. Like, losing him really changes, or it just changes because we don't know. I mean, we simply do not know. And I know you've talked about Shotty is so unique in that we can't really find any reason, or not even find. There isn't recent data to look at because of the unique path he's taken to getting this job. And so it's hard to say, like, when McCarthy took over play calling, we were so easily able to go to his Green Bay days, right? And be like, well, we expect this. We expect him to challenge and blah, blah, blah. So I expect Brian to cultivate this culture that we've been seeing. Now, that's been thwarted by this recent development with Micah, which is really unfortunate and really frustrating and really maddening. But I expect him to have a tighter group and maybe to win some of those tougher, grittier games that they've kind of let fall by the wayside in the past, like down that 23 season, the Buffalo game, the Miami game, like those types of things. I don't think they'll get their doors blown off anymore just because they'll stand a little bit taller. They'll have a little bit more pride. But I would be lying if I had any like actual prediction for what his offense is going to look like, because we simply don't know right now. I mean, his offenses in the past have been so heavily run oriented, but like is Javonte Williams going to carry the ball 300 times? Like, it's really difficult to know that. And so at the same time, like, are they just going to air it out? Is it going to be CD and George Pickens all the time? Or is Jake Ferguson going to get his piece? I really don't know. And so that makes it exciting, but that makes it really terrifying. I know he has swooned us and we humana because he speaks well, and I'm happy about that. But I also think there's a potential where we all remember how mad we were the Friday night at 9 p.m. when they broke the news that they were going to be hiring him. And we sit here and say, yeah, turns out this was the mistake that we thought it was the entire time. And we got swept up in the magic of it all. And so I hope it's not that, obviously, but he's the biggest wild card. Like, forget Dak, forget Pickens, forget Micah's contract. The true wild card on this team is how good Brian Schottenheimer ultimately is.
Yeah, because I mean, like, look, if he comes out here and he's Kyle Shanahan, this roster, I think, is more than enough to potentially make a push here. But if he comes out here and he's, who's a Gerard Mayo, then, this team is going to be in big trouble. So that is a great point you make. I 100% agree with you. And I do agree with the McCarthy thing, where it's just like McCarthy was good for this team, but I just don't think they were going to get where they wanted to get with Mike McCarthy. So I think you made a really good point there. But RJ, I really appreciate your time. You can find RJ at Blogging the Boys. Where else can they find you at, RJ?
I'm anywhere and everywhere you consume content. Generally, I'm RJ Ochoa on most of those places. But TikTok, where I met you, somebody had that, so I had to go with RJ.Ochoa, and that bothers me every day. But yeah, I mean, if you search RJ Ochoa, I'm around. I appreciate you having me on and giving me some time. My best of luck. My wishes for you are health, wealth, and happiness with this adventure you're on. I know you'll succeed because you're doing everything that you attempt, and so I hope that this season is just positive. I mean, we're so due for just like a good ride. I mean, we kind of had it when camp started, and now like just this sputtering is it doesn't take much to ruffle our feathers, and it's just a matter of like just let us enjoy this. Like that's all we're asking for. Last year was so bad. We just want I hate to sound so defeated, but like I know you're not going to win the Super Bowl, but just let me lie to myself for 3 hours every Sunday.
RJ, thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate that, my friend. And yeah, awesome having you on, my friend. So that was RJ Ochoa. We appreciate him for coming on the show. It was a great conversation, and I thought a very productive one. So that is a wrap for the second episode of the CEO Sports Show. I appreciate you guys for coming out and supporting the show. Please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. And I will see you guys in the next episode.